Thanks, Eric. Hi, everyone. So if you wouldn't mind, just bear with me for a moment. I'm trying to figure out how to hide the sidebar on my screen so you can see the full slide.
There should be a button to minimize it for you, and we can't see it right now.
You can't see, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see the full screen.
Okay.
But you should be able to minimize the little boxes that show our faces and stuff.
For some reason, aha, there we go. I'm not super tech savvy and I couldn't find the mouse, so let me see here. Oh. Okay, there we go. All right, I think that does it. So yes, perfect. Okay. All right, so again, thank you everyone for being here. I'm excited to share on the topic of immune function as we go into the colder time of the year. And thank you to Eric and the Mystic No Ink Library for hosting this. So before we get started, I just want to share a little bit about naturopathic medicine very briefly for those of you who aren't familiar with it, because I am a naturopathic doctor. And so this is kind of the foundation for everything that we're talking about today. So naturopathic medicine is very individualized medicine. Two people with the same medical diagnosis get different treatment plans from a naturopathic physician. We also really work to identify and address the underlying causes of any health concerns rather than just symptom suppression. We do want to alleviate symptoms, but we really want to figure out what's going on at a deeper level, because that's where we can hopefully help to facilitate healing. And then along with that, we support the body to regulate itself. The body has an innate wisdom and a lot of healing capabilities, and we really want to support the body to manage itself rather than having to rely on external means if not necessary. And then we also look to use the simplest, least invasive means possible. So we look to prioritize, we look for patterns, we look to see what we can do the most efficiently and elegantly as possible in order to help someone. And then naturopathic medicine is very integrative. Almost all naturopathic physicians, I think, would agree with that. Most of my patients see other doctors as well, and most of my patients have a primary care provider who is not me. I'm in Connecticut a specialist. So naturopathic medicine in a nutshell, here it is. And just remember, very individualized. So with that, oh, I can't move my screen. Wow. It will move in a moment. What's that?
Sorry, somebody was echoing as well. If you use your keyboard arrows, does that move it along?
There we go.
Okay.
All right, so along with naturopathic medicine being individualized, everyone is an individual. So all the information I'm going to share, it's not medical advice, it's for informational, educational purposes only. I do want to stress that, because with a lot of this immune function support type talk, we all want to help ourselves be well, but it is important to check in with your own healthcare provider, because you're an individual, and it's important to make sure that what you do, what you change for your health is right for you and your state of health. So all that said, today we're going to discuss an overview of immune function, and then we'll talk about some potentially supportive strategies, including nutrition, botanicals, micronutrients, hydrotherapy, and lifestyle. And then we'll wrap up talking a little bit about whole person health. All right, so to get started, just kind of an overview of your immune system and immune function. So you probably already know this, but your immune system is like your body's protective mechanism against pathogens or invaders. And so immune cells, which are like the patrols of your immune system, they're found throughout your body, including in your lymphatic fluids, your lymph nodes and glands, your spleen, your epithelial tissues. For example, that's like your gut lining for epithelial cells, and connective tissues and secretions. So all throughout your body, your immune system is at work. your immune function itself is comprised of a few things. You've got physical barriers, you've got your innate immune response, and you've got your adaptive immune response. So let's talk a little bit about each of these. So the physical barriers in your immune function include things like your skin. If you think about it, your skin, it's like a whole body covering to protect what's inside. If you didn't have your skin, you would be exposed, your internal body would be exposed to so many things. So your skin is a physical barrier, your mucous membranes, for example, the inside of your mouth, that's a mucous membrane. And then secretions are also another form of a physical barrier. Like if you think of when you have nasal congestion or seasonal allergies, you might produce a lot more mucus or phlegm, and that's actually a protective mechanism to kind of catch the invaders so they don't get further into your body. So that's a physical barrier. And then we have your innate immune response. And your innate immune response is your body's first responders in a sense. They respond very quickly when there's a pathogen or an invader. They're not a specific response, and there's no immune memory involved here, but this is kind of the first response. And then we get to the adaptive immune response, and this is where we get more specific with things. So with the adaptive immune response, there is immune memory involved, so it allows your body to develop future protection. And this is where antibodies are also produced that can help fight the pathogen or the invader. So with your adaptive immune response, getting a little bit more specific, you've got antigens and antibodies. The antigens are the pathogens, the invader that your body is sensing that's triggering the immune response. So it's the thing that your body is responding to. And an antigen could be a virus, it could be a part of a virus, it could be a protein in something that you eat. Antigens can actually really be anything that's in your body. And then antibodies, these are produced by the body. They're an immune signal to attack an antigen. The antibodies can bind to antigens, and they can also alert other immune cells that an antigen is present. So antibodies are really important in the immune response. And one more time, just to be clear, antigens are the pathogens, the invaders. Antibodies are part of your immune response. And this picture on the side here shows the little blue Y-looking molecules. Those are antibodies, and the red is an antigen that the antibodies are responding to. So they might bind to it a little bit, and then they also will certainly be signaling the rest of the body and the rest of the immune system that this antigen is present. And antibodies are very specific for whatever the antigen is. So whatever, if it's a virus, you're going to have very specific viral antibodies to that virus. The variable part of the antibody will change depending on the antigen, so it's very specific. So within, still talking about this adaptive immune response, within this, we have two main aspects. We have the humoral response and the cellular response. You don't have to remember all this, I just wanted to share a little bit. So the humoral response is mediated by what we call B cells. They're a type of white blood cell. And this is a faster response, the humoral response. And then the cellular response is mediated by T cells, another type of immune cell. And the cellular response is a little bit more specific. It's got more steps involved. Now, the immune response in general involves a lot of different types of white blood cells. I've listed a few here: neutrophils, lymphocytes, eosinophils, macrophages, and there's a lot more. If you ever have a blood work done, routine blood work, where they check your red blood cells and your white blood cells, it's called a CBC, or a complete blood count. If you actually look at the results, you'll see different types of white blood cells listed out there. And that gives your doctor or your healthcare provider some really good information about what might be going on in your body and if anything could be triggering your immune system. So just a little bit on lymphocytes. Lymphocytes, again, are a type of white blood cell. Lymphocytes are part of this adaptive immune response, this more specific response. And lymphocytes, we have B lymphocytes, which are the ones that respond more quickly to the antigen. That's that humoral response. And then we have T lymphocytes, which respond to the antigen. They're a little bit more specific in how they respond, and they often have to be attached to a larger immune complex to actually move in that way. And then we also have NK cells, natural killer cells, that attack the antigen. So these are all different types of lymphocytes. and then just a little bit about cytokines. So cytokines, this is part of both the innate and adaptive immune response, and they help to regulate and stimulate immune activity. Cytokines are secreted by immune cells and by other types of cells. They help to also regulate other things going on in the body. So for example, I have some types of cytokines listed here: interferons and interleukins, which both work in conjunction with the immune function, and then also growth factors, which can do other things in the body too, right? Like stimulate development and growth of different organs or tissues. And one last note with immune function, just about inflammation, because inflammation is talked about a lot today. So inflammation is a really important aspect of immune function. It's essential. If you didn't have inflammation happening in the body, your immune system would not be working well. It's just that when it gets out of control, when the inflammation goes unchecked, it really becomes an issue. And that's what is so common today in our modern world. So this often occurs in chronic disease conditions and also acute illnesses. And the thing with unchecked inflammation is that it can really exacerbate issues and become kind of like a vicious cycle where more inflammation can breed into more inflammation. It's kind of like the faucet's turned on and there's no regulation happening when inflammation is going on chronically. Okay. So there are a lot of details and nuances to your immune system functioning. The body is really, really amazing in what it can do and how specific it can be with its responses. It's important to make sure that your body as a whole is well to allow for your immune system to work at its best. When the body is dealing with different issues, when it's unwell, it can impair your immune function. So for example, autoimmune conditions can develop, and autoimmune conditions are where the immune system is a little bit confused and kind of attacks its own body. And then cancerous or malignant growths can occur and go unchecked, and infections can linger. All sorts of different things can happen if the immune system is impaired. So it's very important to optimize its function as best we can, and really taking care of your whole body is a wonderful way to help support that. So the healthier state you are in, the more capable your immune system. Keeping your whole self well can really optimize your immune function. If you think about it, if you have a certain amount of energy during a typical day, if part of that energy is diverted to dealing with a chronic illness and part of it's diverted to maybe dealing with something else that's happening that particular day in your life, that's going to take some energy away from your immune function and from the rest of your body. So to optimize your immune function, we really want to make sure that we're taking care of the whole system. So now we're going to talk about some supportive types of strategies. And this is lots of good information in here. But I do, again, just want to note that this is all for informational purposes only. Always check with your own healthcare provider before trying anything or changing things up. So we'll talk about nutrition, botanicals, which are plants, micronutrients, hydrotherapy, and lifestyle factors, all to support the immune function. So we'll start with nutrition. And I love talking about nutrition. If you are my patient, you probably know this. I love talking about nutrition because it's such a foundation for health. It's what we're putting in our body every day. So the first tip here is pretty straightforward, pretty simple in a sense, but it can make a big impact. Minimizing sugar. So sugar, in simple terms, it can feed chronic inflammation. It can take resources away from your immune system's ability to be responsive and regulate itself well, and it can contribute to all sorts of other chronic health conditions. So sugar is in so many foods. It's obviously in the sweeter foods, things like candies, cookies, desserts, pastries, cakes, sweets, stuff like that. And then it's also actually in many processed foods. Things that we don't often think would have sugar in them may have sugar, like commercial bread, for example, pre-made meals, salad dressings, a lot of packaged snacks, potentially most packaged snacks, protein bars, things like that tend to have a lot of sugar in them. So it's good to always check the label and the serving size of whatever you're having if it does come in a package, to make sure that you're not having an excessive amount of sugar. This is a simple tip, but one that can make a really big difference. And then nutrition tip number 2, This is another simple and classic nutrition tip, but it's repeated by so many people for a reason. Staying hydrated. This is so important. Your body needs water to survive. If you can aim to drink about half of your body weight in ounces every day, that's a general recommendation. And of course, there are individual variations there for people. Water is the best thing to drink to stay hydrated, and you can add different things to water. Some nice things to add are like fruits or vegetable slices, cucumber slices, orange slices, and then fresh herbs can be really nice, like rosemary or basil. If you've never tried that, try it if it sounds like something you might like. It can add a little bit of a nice flavor to water and make it more exciting. And then keep in mind that caffeinated drinks are actually dehydrating, meaning that you actually need to hydrate more when you're having caffeine. So if you have like a cup of coffee, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is taking away from your hydration status. So you need to both replenish your kind of water intake from the coffee or from the caffeine, and then you also need to continue to try to get up to that half your body weight in ounces or so every day to be optimizing things. And then in terms of drinking and staying hydrated, you do want to avoid sweetened and flavored beverages. The sweetened, again, we want to minimize sugar, and flavored beverages tend to have a lot of other additives, including the term natural flavors. Generally, that's not really a great term. And if you're drinking juice, if you have like pure 100% juice, that's great. Try to keep it still to like 4 ounces a day or so. You can add water to make it look like more and to make the glass fuller, but it's still going to be a larger amount of sugar that is very readily absorbed in that liquid form. Okay, so that's hydration. Nutrition tip number 3 is to eat colorful veggies. So the more deeply the vegetable is pigmented, the more concentrated it's going to be in antioxidants. So if you can look for rich, bright, and dark colors, that would be awesome. Look for the kind of the rainbow of colors at the grocery store, the farmer's market, or wherever you're going. And eating a variety of colors really does help you get a variety of micronutrients, which are things like vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. And so some examples here: Swiss chard, beets, collards, carrots, broccoli, all of these have really deep coloring and some very bright pigments. If you think of beets like the golden beets or the dark, deep purple beets, Swiss chard often has like different colored stems, or that might be different types of chard, like rainbow chard, and then the deep colored greens. Of course, if you have other, health considerations and you can't eat greens or some of these other things, that's fine. Go by what's right for you. But just some examples here. And another just thing that I want to point out is if you love carrots and broccoli, for example, and you eat those day in and day out, you're getting wonderful, wonderful nutrition there. But it's really helpful to also vary that so that you're getting a wider array of micronutrients rather than just what's in carrots and broccoli. There's a lot more in other vegetables as well. The same goes for fruits. The more bright, darker color, deeply pigmented the fruit, the more antioxidants it will have. Just make sure with fruits you pay attention to portion size. Even more important with fruits than vegetables, because you don't want excess sugar from the fruit. And trying to choose more veggies than fruits in a day is a general good rule of thumb. Nutrition tip number 4 is to enjoy berries. So berries, they're a fruit, but they're loaded with bioflavonoids and other antioxidants. And the glycemic load of berries tends to be lower than most other fruits, which means that it's not going to introduce sugar in quite the same way to the body. Your body is going to be able to manage it a little bit better. So I'm sure you know a lot of examples of berries, but here's a few: like blueberries, raspberries, mulberries, blackberries, strawberries, lots and lots of berries. If you can with berries, choose organic, because berries do absorb more pesticides, and local is also very nice. And often there are small local farms that don't use pesticides or chemicals and may not be certified organic, but still do those kinds of methods in their farming. So berries, wonderful. And then nutrition tip number 5 here is to sip on bone broth. So who knows about bone broth? Bone broth is wonderful. There's so many excellent aspects to bone broth. If you are vegan or vegetarian, this wouldn't be for you, but if you are not vegan or vegetarian, this is excellent. So bone broth is nutritive, it's warming, it's very gentle on the system, and it's very easily absorbed. Bone broth is made from bones that have the marrow in them still. Typically, it's made from cow bones, but it can also be made from chicken or really any type of bones. Just generally, it's the bovine. You can make your own bone broth. It's very simple. There's lots of recipes online. Essentially, you simmer the bones with the marrow with any other vegetables that you like. And then the broth really has the extracted nutrients from the marrow, from the bones, from the other veggies you have in there. And you can also purchase bone broth at the store, at a local shop or grocery. I've seen it in a lot of the larger groceries around this area. And then choosing high quality bone broth, I would recommend. So that means whatever the animal is, appropriate for the animal, high quality, like free range, grass fed, local. But bone broth can be really nice. And you can sip on it as part of a snack. It can be part of a meal. You can use it as a base for another soup. It can be very supportive for healing, including healing in the gut. And some people even like to just put bone broth in a mug and sip it as they're walking down the street, or have it as almost like another way of hydrating. Okay, nutrition tip number 6. Consider a 12-hour eating time frame. Now, don't do this if this is not appropriate for you medically, but for example, if you eat all your food between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., then you have a break between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., and that's 12 hours with no food, which is like a 12-hour overnight fast. That allows your body to spend less energy on digestion during those whole 12 hours and more energy on other things that need to happen in the body during sleep, in particular, immune function. A lot happens in the immune system while you're sleeping. The body is very active during sleep, even though we're asleep and we're not really conscious of it. So a 12-hour overnight fast can be very therapeutic. All right, so that was a lot of nutritional stuff. Now we're going to talk about some botanicals. The first thing that I'd like to talk about here is reishi mushroom. The Latin for this is Ganoderma, which you might see in some places depending on the labeling. But reishi is a wonderful mushroom. It has immune stimulating properties. It's also an antioxidant and antiviral. It's also tonifying for the body, and it can support your adrenal health, and it can be kind of balancing in a way. It can also support mental clarity. It's available in lots of different forms. You can even buy the whole mushroom form, and you can add it to like a soup or a stew. You can get powders and add them to things also. So reishi, this herbal book that's available through the National Institutes of Health's database, states a few things here, and I have some quotes from some research studies that you'll see, and I left them in the form that the study or the book references them in, just because it's a little bit nicer that way. So there is considerable evidence to support the immunostimulating activities of reishi via induction of cytokines and enhancement of immunological effector cells. Different components from reishi were proved to enhance the proliferation and maturation of T and B lymphocytes, splenic mononuclear cells, NK cells, and they continue on. So you might recognize a few of these immune terms here from when we talked about immune function. The general idea here is that reishi is immunostimulating, so it can support your immune system to be more responsive and to be more activated. They go on to say various components of reishi, in particular polysaccharides and triterpenoids, show antioxidant activity. And they were found to be absorbed quickly after ingestion, resulting in an increase in the plasma total antioxidant activity. So reishi has some wonderful antioxidant activity here. And I just want to point out also that many mushrooms, there's a lot of different mushrooms, many mushrooms have some really wonderful healing types of properties. Okay, so the next botanical that I'd like to talk about is resveratrol. Resveratrol is a very potent antioxidant, and you may be familiar with this because it's talked about a lot with red wine. Resveratrol has some great anti-inflammatory properties. In its concentrated form or a supplemental form, it's the most therapeutic. You would have to drink a whole lot of red wine to get the same amount of resveratrol as is in a little capsule of resveratrol, just for example. So this doesn't, resveratrol talk here doesn't mean to drink lots of red wine. A review article about resveratrol gave a nice summary. Resveratrol can play a beneficial role in the prevention and in the progression of chronic diseases related to inflammation, such as diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, neurodegeneration, and cancers, among other conditions. Moreover, resveratrol regulates immunity by interfering with immune cell regulation, pro-inflammatory cytokine synthesis, and gene expression. So resveratrol has kind of a broad application almost, and it does really help to regulate immunity. And they continue with a little bit more detail. I'm going to skip to the end here. Resveratrol can suppress pro-inflammatory genes expression. The antioxidant activity of resveratrol and the ability to inhibit enzymes involved in the production of eicosanoids contributes to its anti-inflammation properties. So resveratrol, again, it's got some great antioxidant activity and it's a great anti-inflammatory. Okay, elderberry. So I want to touch on elderberry here. Elderberry, it's a berry. It's very rich in bioflavonoids. It's been used for a long time in herbal medicine. It does have antiviral properties. It's gentle and soothing for the throat, and it's very popular with children when it's indicated. It's sold pretty commonly in stores. So a study published in the Journal of Functional Foods stated, elderberry possesses immunomodulatory properties through stimulation of cytokines. And elderberry exhibits multiple modes of therapeutic action against influenza infection. This is what they found in this study. Our data further support both direct effects of elderberry extract by blocking viral glycoproteins, as well as indirect effects by increased expression of interleukin 6, interleukin 8, and tumor necrosis factor. So they're just touching on different ways that elderberry has impact in the immune function and helping to modulate immune function. And this was very interesting. This study was a double-blind, randomized controlled trial that the researchers did with people who were traveling by airplane. And they found that travelers who used elderberry from 10 days before travel until 4 to 5 days after arriving overseas, on average experienced a 2-day shorter duration of the cold and also a reduction in cold symptoms. Their data suggest a significant reduction of cold duration and severity in air travelers. So this is specific to the common cold. And it's very interesting that they were able to do this double-blind randomized controlled trial, which is a very, it's a more challenging type of study to do, but it's a very good study when it's done. And in case anyone's interested, the way that they did this, they had a very large group of volunteers who were going to be traveling, and they were able to kind of get that group down based on other factors to about 300 people. And then out of those 300 people, they gave everyone either a placebo or the elderberry. And when the people traveled, and everyone basically traveled on the same trip essentially in terms of logistics and what they were exposed to, how long they were in the plane. They did a lot of controls in this study. And out of all of that, there were a handful of people who caught a cold during their travel, and that's who they were able to get the data and compare, and they adjusted for different variables. And after all of that, they were able to come up with this information. So that's just a little bit of background in case anyone's interested on how they were able to do a double-blind RCT with travelers like this. Very interesting. All right, fire cider. So fire cider is a wonderful, wonderful botanical preparation. This is a combination of plants that are extracted in vinegar. It usually includes horseradish, ginger, garlic, cayenne, or another hot pepper like jalapeno, apple cider vinegar, and then other plants, whatever somebody wants to put in. Sometimes you'll add lemon, you can add other herbs. Fire cider is bitter, it's stimulating, it's warming, it can really get the digestive juices flowing, and it can be stimulating for the immune function as well. You do want to be careful if vinegary things upset your digestion. If you have reflux or any types of ulcers or other GI conditions, it's best to, as always, check with your healthcare provider. So the main ingredient in fire cider is horseradish. And in a study here, they found that horseradish reduced reactive oxygen species release and increased heme oxygenase 1 expression, thus contributing to the cytoprotective cellular effect during inflammation. So essentially, horseradish was protective for cells when there was inflammation happening, and it also helped to reduce reactive oxygen species, which can be damaging in the body. And fire cider is something that that I've seen locally at different stores and farmers markets. You do want to make sure that it's the right thing for you, but it's pretty common these days, and you can make your own at home too. There's lots of recipes online for that. And then garlic. Garlic is wonderful. The Latin for garlic is Allium, sativum, and the Allium family is just a really wonderful family of plants. It's kind of thought of as like the onion family. So it has onions, leeks, scallions, things like that, and garlic. Garlic has great antiviral and antimicrobial properties. It can have benefits for cardiovascular health. You can use it in a concentrated form like a supplement, or you can use it in the food form. If you're cooking with it, you do want to add it at the very end of cooking, because adding it earlier can decrease the beneficial properties of it. And you can add whole cloves to things too, even to a smoothie. Sometimes I'll throw a clove of garlic into a smoothie, and you can definitely taste it, but it's got a nice little kick. If you are someone who's sensitive to garlic, and I have some patients like this, if you're sensitive to garlic, try removing the inner little bulb. So if you cut a garlic clove in half, and you can kind of see this in the picture on the side here, if you cut a garlic clove in half, there will be like a little, it might look a little green or a little, almost like a little sprout in the center. Take that out. That can be very allergenic for some people. So if you take that out and then try the garlic, you might actually have less sensitivity to it that way. Okay, so a review published in the journal Food Trends, Food Science and Technology found that preclinical data demonstrated that garlic and its OSCs, which are organosulfur compounds, have potential antiviral activity against different human, animal, and plant pathogenic viruses through blocking viral entry into host cells, inhibiting viral RNA polymerase, reverse transcriptase, DNA synthesis. So they found that garlic helps to act as an antiviral by inhibiting viral replication types of processes. And then the studies further demonstrated a prophylactic effect of garlic in the prevention of widespread viral infections in humans through enhancing the immune response. So garlic gave somewhat of a protective effect in just, they're talking about inflammations in general here, but somewhat of a protective effect by enhancing the immune response. So interesting work there. And then another botanical, so this is actually a compound that's found in plants. It's not a plant itself, but quercetin. Quercetin is this compound that's found in different plants. It's more common in the Allium family. So again, that's like the onion family. Red onions are a great source of this. Garlic is also in that Allium family. And quercetin is also in other things though, like for example, apples. Apples have some quercetin. Quercetin is a wonderful anti-inflammatory. It helps to prevent the release of histamine, and histamine is like if you have that allergic type response, that's the release of histamine. So quercetin helps to prevent the release of histamine, and thereby it prevents that allergic response. It does this by stabilizing certain white blood cells called mast cells. It stabilizes them so that they don't burst open and release histamine. And this can reduce sensitivities and seasonal allergies. So quercetin is actually a fairly common supplement for things like seasonal allergies. A study reported that quercetin displays a broad range of antiviral properties which can interfere at multiple steps of pathogen virulence, virus entry, virus replication, protein assembly. So quercetin can kind of hit on a broader range of antiviral actions. All right, so now let's talk about micronutrients. So micronutrients are things like vitamins, minerals, amino acids. So the first one, vitamin C. I'm sure everyone knows this and knows that it's a great antioxidant. It's been studied for a long time. Vitamin C helps to clean up inflammatory damage in the body. It's very good if you can take it with other antioxidants or in a food type of form. Too much of a supplement of vitamin C orally can sometimes upset your stomach, and it can sometimes cause looser bowel movements. Taking a buffered form of vitamin C can help with that. And buffered vitamin C, sometimes it's with more of a food preparation. And also you can find supplements that are simply labeled buffered vitamin C. And they just have something else in it to kind of buffer the effects of the vitamin C on your gut. Okay, and then a recent article in the journal Frontiers in Immunology stated there is evidence that vitamin C and quercetin co-administration exerts a synergistic antiviral action due to overlapping antiviral and immunomodulatory properties and the capacity of ascorbate or vitamin C to recycle quercetin, increasing its efficacy. So this is really great. So they found that vitamin C and quercetin together act even better than the two individually by themselves. Taking them together has a synergy. And so just for example there, you can think of food sources of vitamin C and quercetin, and you could mix them up, make like a salad with some vitamin C foods and quercetin foods. You could have some apples, some onions, you could have some citrus in there, and then you could have some nice greens or whatever you like. But having them together, they have found to have a synergy. And then it's also interesting that they found vitamin C or ascorbate can recycle quercetin, which is wonderful because often when we have antioxidants and they do their work, they then have to be discarded so that they don't become damaging in another way. They have to be discarded. So being able to recycle the quercetin is nice because you get a lot more benefit from it and potentially avoid any other stuff happening. Okay, another micronutrient that's wonderful for immune function is zinc. And zinc is important in many other pathways in the body too. It helps with tissue healing, it helps with wound healing. If you've ever cut your finger, gotten a paper cut, zinc is an important part of that healing process. Zinc is found the highest in oysters, and then in beef, lobster, darker cuts of chicken, pumpkin seeds, and many more foods. The highest food by far is oysters. So oysters have a very high amount of zinc. A review article on zinc gave a really nice summary here, so I'm just going to read it. After the discovery of zinc deficiency in the 1960s, it soon became clear that zinc is essential for the function of the immune system. Zinc ions are involved in regulating intracellular signaling pathways in innate and adaptive immune cells. Anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties of zinc have long been documented. And so zinc is just very, very important for immune function, and it plays a role in a lot else in the body. So you want to make sure that your zinc level is appropriate. Okay, and then vitamin D. Vitamin D is very, very important for immune functioning, and it's also very important for other systems in the body. And there's a lot of overlap in different micronutrients in a sense, because micronutrients in general, they don't just help one thing, they help a range of things, a broader array of things. So vitamin D is sometimes called the sunshine vitamin. It's actually a hormone and not a vitamin. And most people don't obtain optimal levels from sun exposure alone, especially where we are in the world here in southeastern Connecticut. And where we are here in southeastern Connecticut, the sun has to be at a certain angle in order for us to get vitamin D from sunlight exposure. And the sun's only at that angle for a few months every year. So the rest of the year, we don't really have the opportunity to get much vitamin C from sun exposure. So most vitamin D that you would get tends to be in supplemental form or in fortified foods. And the fortified foods are labeled like fortified foods, fortified with vitamin D, that type of thing. A review in the journal Nutrients found that through several mechanisms, vitamin D can reduce the risk of infections. Those mechanisms include inducing cathelicidins, and defensins that can lower viral replication rates, and reducing concentrations of pro-inflammatory cytokines that produce the inflammation that injures the lining of the lungs, leading to pneumonia, as well as increasing concentrations of anti-inflammatory cytokines. So they found some really interesting mechanisms here for vitamin D, really helpful for the immune function and for reducing inflammation. And vitamin D is something, it's a simple test that your doctor or your healthcare provider could potentially test for you if it's warranted. Another micronutrient is NAC, N-acetyl cysteine. And NAC is another wonderful one. I feel like I'm saying all of these are wonderful, but they are. So NAC is a mucolytic, meaning it breaks up excess mucus. So if you have like a lot of mucus in your mouth, saliva, if you've got a lot of congestion, a postnasal drip, that kind of thing, NAC can potentially be helpful there. It can be very supportive for respiratory health. It's also supportive for detoxification pathways. And NAC is often, oops, if you just joined, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself, thank you, just to reduce the background noise. So NAC is often the rate limiting step in what's called glutathione synthesis. Glutathione is one of your body's main antioxidants. Your body makes 3 major antioxidants. Glutathione is one of them, and it's very important for detoxification in the body. And NAC is generally the rate limiting step in your body being able to make glutathione. So NAC also can help your body to make more of this glutathione antioxidant. So a lot of potential benefits here with NAC. A review article in the journal Antioxidants stated, NAC has been an established drug since the 1960s. It is on the World Health Organization's list of 40 essential medicines and is available as an inexpensive generic drug. It has been classically used in paracetamol overdose. Paracetamol is Tylenol. And as a mucolytic, as well as to combat the toxicity of various substances that can cause generation of free radicals, such as carbon monoxide and X-ray contrast. So I want to point out here just that they're stating how common and how popular NAC really is. It's on the World Health Organization's list of 40 essential medicines. And it's often actually used in Europe for Tylenol or paracetamol overdose. Tylenol is not as widely used in Europe in general as it is in the United States. There are more concerns around the liver impact of it, but NAC is one thing that is used there when someone overdoses on Tylenol or paracetamol. They will use that. The generic name for Tylenol in the US is acetaminophen, which all these different terms can be a little confusing, but just know that NAC is helpful there. Okay, so an additional, this isn't a micronutrient, but it's something additional that can be very helpful for immune function, probiotics. So probiotics is a really, really general term. There's many different strains of probiotics. There's many species, combinations of the microbes. Probiotics products, they're all different. And in terms of what's in them, how much is in them, and the quality of the company making them, how much care they put into them so that the microbes actually survive. Probiotics, if you're not familiar with them, they help to nourish and balance your gut microbiome, which is all the healthy bacteria that live in your digestive tract. And that is very important, and that does play a role in immune function. Most of your immune system is actually kind of centered around the gut. So your microbiome being healthy and well is important. So in general, probiotics support the microbiome, which again is important in immune health, and it can be affected by a lot of different things, including illness. A study published in the journal Synthetic and Systems Biotechnology stated the consumption of probiotics significantly reduced the incidence of upper respiratory infection and flu-like symptoms with an oral temperature higher than 38 degrees Celsius as compared to the placebo group. And the probiotics they used in this study were 30 million plus CFUs of lactobacillus species compared with a placebo. And they found this, what they call significant reduction of infection. Okay, so let's see. So I'm just keeping an eye on the time. I want to try to get through as much as we can here and have a few minutes for questions. So hydrotherapy. Hydrotherapy is basically using water in a therapeutic way. And so the first thing here is a type of hydrotherapy that's very simple. You can use it to wake up your thymus gland. Your thymus gland is located, if you look in the picture in the top right here, your thymus gland is in the center of your chest, kind of behind your sternum, just below your collarbone. And it's part of your immune system. It actually kind of gets smaller with age, but it's where some of your immune cells, like the T lymphocytes, it's where they go to mature and develop. And you can theoretically stimulate your thymus gland by using a blast of cold water. Some people also think doing a little thump on it can help. This is theoretical. There's not a study that I'm aware of that shows this, but it's something that has been used in different types of traditional medicines for years. So a cold blast at the end of your shower when you're really warm. You want to do this when you're really warm at the end of a shower. And then just let very cold water, turn the water to very cold and let it run and hit you right in your thymus gland area. 30 seconds or less, I would say, aimed right at the center of your chest. If you only do a few seconds, that could still be helpful. But you want to be warm first and then do 30 seconds or less. Another type of hydrotherapy that can be helpful is contrast hydrotherapy. And this contrast hydrotherapy, the goal of it is to stimulate more circulation to move. And with more circulation moving, your body's able to deliver more nutrients, more resources. Your immune system is able to kind of do more work in a sense because it's able to move around more. Signals get moved faster, and again, resources move faster. So by stimulating circulation, it can help your immune function, but also the rest of your body, your overall wellness. So hot water, when we're talking about hydrotherapy, remember it's water. So hot water pulls blood to the area where it's applied, and cold water pushes blood inward. So if you think about like if you've ever been in like a really hot bubble bath or a hot tub, you might have red skin when you get out, or reddish looking skin because the blood has been pulled to the surface of your skin because of the heat of the water. So contrast hydrotherapy can be really great if you're feeling a little bit unwell or if you're starting to feel a little bit sick, because it can help really move resources around, get your body going, stimulate things. If you do contrast hydrotherapy, you want to check with your doctor first or your healthcare provider and make sure that this is appropriate for you, because in certain conditions you wouldn't want to do this. For example, neuropathy, you want to be able to feel the temperature of the water. So with contrast hydrotherapy, you would alternate hot and cold 1 or 2 times. You could do more if you want also. You want to make sure to start with hot and do hot for 5 to 10 or even more minutes. You want to be very hot and warm before you introduce the cold. And then the cold you would do for 30 to 60 seconds. The cold is actually what we call a warming treatment, because when you apply the cold, it's actually going to drive the blood inward and warm up your core. Whereas the hot kind of pulls your blood outward. We're driving the blood inward with the cold and it's warming you up. So again, first make sure you're hot before doing the cold. Don't apply cold, especially when it's cold out, without being hot first. You don't want to add coldness to your body if you are cold in any way. You want to make sure you're hot first. And then ending with cold can be very, very nice. It's a nice stimulating way to end a hydrotherapy treatment, and also to end a shower potentially if that cold blast sounded appealing to you. All right, so a few lifestyle factors for immune function now. Exercising regularly. This one, of course, supports your whole body health. As you know, it strengthens, it tones, it can help your metabolism. Exercise can do so much good for your body. It can also help to reduce stress. When you are physically active, it can help your body to break down more of those stress neurotransmitters. And it also moves your energy when you're exercising. You're moving around, and that really can help you to feel better. If you are feeling unwell or sick, it's usually better to rest and to not push yourself to exercise. Rest is when your body does a lot of healing. So you do want to prioritize that if you're not feeling well. And then sleep. Sleep is so important. It's essential to get enough rest, especially if you're not feeling well. Sleep is when your body does so much work and your immune system is very, very active during sleep. It does a lot of cleanup, including cleanup throughout your body, and your brain is part of that. There's a lot of brain cleanup that happens during the night. Most adults actually require 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Many people think that they don't need that much. Part of that can be that their body might be just kind of in a dysregulated state, in a sense, from chronic stress or from other factors, and they feel okay running on less. It's rarely the case that someone actually needs less than 7 hours of sleep. And even if you're not able to sleep for the full 7 hours, if you rest and just stay in bed, no devices, just resting in bed, that can really allow your body more time to rest and heal, recover, and take care of what it needs to take care of. A review article on sleep stated that sleep and the circadian rhythm, or the circadian system, exert a strong regulatory influence on immune functions. Sleep on the night after experimental vaccinations against hepatitis A produced a strong and persistent increase in the number of antigen-specific Th cells and antibody titers. Together, these findings indicate a specific role of sleep in the formation of immunological memory. So what they're talking about is the production of antibodies. The antibodies that we talked about earlier, those are the immune memory, and sleep is allowing for more antibodies to be produced. They found, as they say, a specific role of sleep in allowing for immunological memory to happen. And this was after giving a vaccination. So they were checking people to see what their antibody levels were, and this is what they found. Really quite interesting. All right, and then stress. So stress can wreak some havoc on the body. It can impair healthy immune function, and it also affects a whole lot else in the body. It affects your cardiovascular system, your blood pressure can go up, and other things, your digestive system. When some people are stressed, they can get constipated, others can get looser stool, and then your mental emotional health is certainly affected by stress. It's important to be aware of your stress level in general and to seek support if you need it. Therapy and counseling can be wonderful for anyone, truly anyone. And it's just really a space for you to share and talk about things. So if that's something that feels like it might resonate with you, that might be something to explore, especially during the colder months, the winter time, when in this area, it gets darker a lot earlier. That can shift people's emotional states sometimes. All right. And then mindfulness practices to help with stress reduction, things like deep breathing, yoga, meditation, journaling, really anything that brings you a greater sense of calm. And whatever that is for an individual, it really varies. It could be walking on the beach, picking up some shells. It could be sitting on your deck with a cup of coffee. It could be writing in your journal, whatever it is for you. Do try to incorporate things that bring you a greater sense of calm. That really does help your immune system to work well and to be able to function more optimally, and your whole body, really. Okay, and then just a note about whole person health. Again, it's important to stay well throughout all aspects of your health, and making healthy choices now, especially as we go into the winter time when there could be a little bit of an increased susceptibility to different health factors. Making healthy choices can put you at an advantage. As they say, an ounce of prevention equals a pound of cure, and that's certainly true. Seeing your doctor or provider for regular check-ins can be really helpful. A naturopathic doctor can also be a wonderful resource for you, especially in talking about things like nutrition, micronutrients, botanicals, and other sorts of lifestyle factors. And a naturopathic doctor, again, works integratively with your other providers. So if you're feeling unwell, it is important to seek support. So to recap everything we've talked about here, we talked about an overview of immune function, and then some supportive strategies. Potentially that can include nutrition, botanicals, micronutrients, hydrotherapy, and lifestyle. And then we touched on the whole person health aspect again. As a reminder, the healthier state you are in, the more capable your immune system and your immune function will be. So keep your whole self well, and you'll optimize your immune function. As a reminder, again, this material is for informational purposes only. It's not medical advice. Always check with your healthcare provider before making any changes at all or using any of these things. You want to make sure it's appropriate for you as an individual. All right. So thank you for listening. I'm glad we got through all the material, and we still have a few minutes, it looks like. I'll just mention real quick right now, on my website, I have other free resources. If you enjoyed this presentation, go on my website and check it out. You can sign up for my monthly newsletter if you'd like. It's free, and you can stay in the loop on upcoming events, presentations. Yeah, and if you have questions, you can also feel free to contact me through there. All right, thank you. Thank you to the Mystic No Ink Library for hosting this, and to Eric for coordinating everything. And I would love to answer, if there are any questions, to answer some questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cannon. This was very thorough and super informative. And I wanted to say, if anybody does have questions, you can go ahead and unmute and just ask, or you can type into the chat. So someone says, will I get the same benefits of horseradish by using the bottled product? For example, on sandwiches, etc.
Oh, I see. So a little different, I would say. It's a little different. And the difference is that's a good question. So if it's like a horseradish spread, you could, depending on the product, you could get some kind of digestive stimulation from it potentially, if it's got like that zing to it. But in terms of fire cider, with the fire cider, the way you prepare it is you have the vegetables and you either chop them up very finely or you blend them up and you put them in the vinegar, and it sits for at least a month, and then you strain it. So it really extracts out a lot of the compounds that are in horseradish and the other vegetables, and they're a little bit more potent in that form. So I would say it's not the same effect, but you could still get a little bit of benefit from putting a horseradish type of spread on something. And if you like horseradish, potentially you could even try to prepare the horseradish by itself and have like a bite of it, you know, before a meal, to stimulate a little bit of something. Good question.
Any other questions?
I do have, Eric, I do have a handout that I prepared that's kind of a summary of what we talked about, so I can send that to you to send to everyone who attended, if people would like a reference like that.
That sounds great. Thank you. And I'll be able to send that out to everyone tomorrow, tomorrow morning. Any last minute questions?
I know that was a lot of information to take in, probably.
Oh, can I just ask one quick question? It's Diana, on the NAC, is it?
Yes.
How can you buy that?
So the NAC, you can find that. That's a pretty commonly available supplement. So you can find that, you know, if you buy supplements from a reputable source online, right, or at a health food store. It may even be at like a local drugstore. It's a fairly commonly available supplement.
So just go in the health food store and ask the person there.
Yeah, a health food store would definitely, I would say they would definitely be able to help you, and I would be surprised if they didn't have it.
Oh, I'm sure they will. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that does bring us to 5 o'clock. Dr. Cannon, I wanted to thank you again so much for all 3 of the really great programs you've done for us this fall. And I'll be sure to follow up with everyone. I'll link you to Dr. Cannon's website and also the handout that she's made.
All right, awesome. This has been great. Thank you, Eric, and everyone who's tuned in today. And I've really enjoyed doing the wellness series this fall. So thank you for hosting this. This has been great, and I hope it's been a learning experience for everyone. I know I'm always learning more, and I really like sharing this information. So thank you.
Awesome. I will